My friends and my family, this is Trevor Chapman, modern day man, entrepreneur, achiever, purveyor of the good life, student of life, marketer. After over 10 years in business, tens of millions of dollars, I've learned this one thing. There's too much noise. It takes tactics and strategy. You can't buy it, you earn it through experience. Failure after failure hones the craft. You must become a warrior. It's time to run. The experience you can't buy. You had to have earned it. It's my turn to give back and contribute. I share all of my lessons from 7 to 8 and from 8 to 9 figures. We'll see if it goes from 9 to 10, but I'm gonna give it all to you. Consistency, persistence, dedication, vision, time, discipline, work. I'm gonna give it all to you so that you learn from where I failed and you learn from my experience. My brothers, this is your daily fuel. Welcome back, my friends. Here we go. Another exciting episode. You know, yesterday's was pretty long. I really got into that because I feel so strongly about people just moving forward and pursuing their potential. Not necessarily when you're not free to pursue your passion. I think that sometimes we get way too hung up on, oh, am I passionate about this or not? You know, it was interesting in 2008 when everything fell out from underneath us. I was in a van, one of our pest control vehicles, with my business partner, and I was sitting there, everything's falling apart, and I said, man, I'm just not passionate about this. This was kind of like my solution to the problem, is that I was like, the whole problem here is that I'm not passionate about it. And he said, you know what, man? I don't think we need to be passionate about anything other than making money and surviving right now. That hit me hard, man. That hit me. And I considered that. Sometimes the right things lead us down the wrong road. Is it good to pursue your passion? You bet it's good. Man, it is noble. It is holy. But not at the cost of responsibility, honor, duty. Look, if you're the head of a household and you're not providing for that household because you're not in your passion, then unequivocally you're wrong. Obviously, everybody wants to be a YouTube superstar, making videos of them sitting on the beach and doing backflips into the ocean. Everybody wants that. That's everybody's passion. See, these guys didn't pursue their, quote, passion of sitting on the beach. These guys were passionate about videography or acting. And they pursued that. Most of them, well, they had very little to risk. Young and able to fail many times before it affected other people. If you've got children, if you've got a household, hey, if you've got a business and other people's children and other people's households depend on you, then it's time to really set aside this concept of, man, I've got to pursue my passion. And it's not working because I'm not pursuing my passion. You can't use that as an excuse. You've got to, as dividing as this might be, you've got to man up. You got to get it done. Do you know how many years I knocked doors? And I hated it. But nobody could tell that I hated it. Now, I want you to listen to this. I knocked doors into my late 20s while my friends from high school and college were doctors, lawyers, coders, developers. Well, they were, quote, pursuing their passions. Here I was knocking doors, peddling commercial security and access control. So many times, in fact, daily, this phrase came to my mind, and I've said it before. The phrase is, Trevor, you are more than the life that you're living. And while I knew this inside, and while it ate at me, nobody else knew it. In fact, so much so, this is going to blow your mind. I had many people, while I was pitching them on their homes, when I was in the residential area and commercially, when I started going business to business, say to me, dude, you really love your job, don't you? And it blew my mind. Because I wanted to say, no, I despise this. But I'm doing what I have to do right now in the midst of a recession to provide for my family and the people that believed in my vision. You know, I trained thousands, I'm not exaggerating, thousands of sales reps. Roughly half of them had families. They'd move out to where my offices were, and they would work, believing that they could make more with me than elsewhere, and then use that as a platform to move on and go after their dreams. Because it's easy to pursue your passion if you've got extra jet fuel to burn. But if you don't have extra jet fuel to burn, you've got to do what you've got to do. Man, you've got to be duty bound. This is what I love about the Stoics. Duty, a virtue, was so high up there. But I've got something more to say to you than, hey, sorry, man, you just got to keep digging that ditch. I've got something that I wrote online on some obscure blog like 6 years ago. And I literally just found it today, accidentally. This is what I wrote. This is me quoting some other source online. I had found this elsewhere. A plain iron bar is worth $5. If you make horseshoes from it, the value increases to $10.50. If you make needles, it increases to $3,285. If you make watch springs from that same plain iron bar, the value goes to $250,000. The difference between $5 and $250,000 is creativity or innovation and action. Now, you may not be passionate about iron bars. What you're doing may be the dull iron bar. But you can take your core competency as a platform and bounce forward off of it. I know you can because I did. Door to door isn't sexy. But I knew that it was a way to sell at perceived value. And if I could sell something for $1,000 instead of $100, not compete in the race to the bottom, then I knew that it was wiser to go that route. And if I could curve or shorten the learning curve and bounce forward, because I was using a method that didn't rely on inbound traffic or query-based or search marketing or anything like that. We were taking it to them, and so I could grow at a click quicker. Then I knew I needed to do that. And so while door-to-door stayed a key component of all of my businesses, I bounced forward. I didn't stick with the iron bar. I have buddies that are still doing pest control. Same thing we did 15 years ago in college or 13 years ago in college. But I took that door-to-door competency and I transitioned. Eventually, we were doing the access control and surveillance for Amazon.com, MAC Cosmetics, Subway franchises, Boeing subcontractors. I bounced forward from that still with door-to-door. Brought the Iron Dome over here to America with this company, Sera, S-E-R-A. Incredible opportunity. Made lifelong friends there. Bounced forward. Created a solar company that became one of the largest installers and financiers in my state. And then we expanded into 5 more states. See, I took that iron bar and I went from iron bar to horseshoe, to needles, to watch springs. How can you do that? You've got to not be so stuck in the rut. Remember the coffin with no ends? Don't get so stuck in the rut that you don't see the opportunity outside of it. Do you remember what I did after solar? That is what got me all the press. I took door-to-door online. My thesis was no one's going, quote, door-to-door online or screen-to-screen. The vast majority is query-based. It's Amazon marketing. It's SEO, SEM, PPC. You're waiting for people to want it. What if you could knock on their screen, show them why they want it, and then sell it perceived value? I did that. Broke $1 million in 90 days, $2 million in 180 days. Bounce forward. Finalizing an acquisition that's an 8-figure sellout right now. A year, less than a year from when I started. That's going to be released soon. The details of that will be made public. And if I can do it, you can do it. Anybody can do it. And I bounced forward from there, understanding, I'm going to talk more about this tomorrow. But I'm reading a book right now by Ray Dalio called Principles. He understood how the markets moved. While everybody else just said, okay, we trade commodities. Meat season, get some. Grain season, buy barley. He attempted to understand the intricate ways that the markets moved. Remember, going from iron bar to watch springs? And he said, okay, the rainfall affects the soybean growth, and the soybean production affects how much the cattle are going to eat. And based on how much they eat, that determines how large they grow and how quick meat gets to the market. And so he, seeing deeper, understanding how the system worked, how the algorithm worked, again, going from iron bar to watch springs, was able to dramatically make quantum speed leaps in his industry. Not because he cheated the system, but because he understood how the system worked. And instead of taking everybody else's route, which is typically the school of hard knocks, banging into that brick wall until you either get through it or you realize you need to go around it, what takes years. But instead he understood the system and the way that he could go from iron bar to watch springs faster. People today have been asking me, how did you get the #1 spot in business a month after you started? I mean, Tim, obviously I don't have 200 million downloads like Tim Ferriss. It's clear. I don't have 100,000 subscribers like Gary Vee. That's clear. So how could I hold the #1 spot in business and number 14 overall in all of iTunes, which, by the way, I'm honored. It's because of you. It's because I watched the podcasts, how they moved. I literally charted what podcasts at what times of the day were where. And then I listened to them, and I realized there's a large segment that are listening, of women likely, that are listening to this baby podcast at this time. And when they listen to it, it pushes it forward. So if they miss that time to publish it, they miss that segment of women. And I watched over the last month. How do these podcasts move? Because it's a fluid dynamic. People who've been podcasting way longer than me, JLD, Entrepreneur on Fire, others, like they've been in this game forever. Lewis Howes. This is literally my first podcast ever. And instead of just sticking with the good old iron bar, I don't want to wait 5 years to have to beat Tim Ferriss, 200 million downloads, Gary Vee, NPR. So instead I watched how it moved. I timed when they put out their podcast. I watched what they did as soon as it came out, realizing that the iTunes algorithm is going to value velocity, relevancy, speed, listens, subscribes, likes, reviews. You know what? The first time I scored fairly high was week 2. I got number 6 in business. And I immediately had 27 one-star reviews, clearly from a hater, non-English speaker. And that night, I've been meaning to talk about this, I was pretty bummed. I felt like, is there nothing I can do where I'll just be given, like, just leave me alone? Like you, everything I do has opposition. Everywhere I've been, from high school to middle school to college to business, I've had haters. And man, it's rough. How much further we could get as a race if we supported each other instead of ripping each other down. I talked about this yesterday in the parable of the chicken. But I got down. I was down for a day, considering. And then I just made the resolution. There's always going to be haters. There's nothing I can do. I saw a quote by Grant Cardone, don't get even, get successful. And I said, all right, I'm going to fight to the top. I'm going to maintain the top spot. And so I'm deliberate on what my podcast topics are 90% of the time. I'm very careful about when I post, how I promote it on social media. You know that I literally private message people asking them to listen to my podcast and if worthy to give it a rating at different times of the day. If you understand the ecosystem, you can make watch springs instead of just horseshoes. Now, this system is everywhere in our lives. The market that we trade, the social media platforms that we're on, the books that ultimately make it or don't, the apps that people see. What determines if something has widespread adoption? I'll tell you. Whether or not a marketer is behind the product. And so if you're an entrepreneur and you want to go from iron bar to horseshoe, from horseshoe to needles, from needles to watch springs, then be an entrepreneur that focuses on mastering the craft of marketing, which is nothing more than effectively and strategically communicating with people, creating a win situation for them. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm so honored that what I have to say when I share my experiences is valuable enough for people to listen, to subscribe, to review. I appreciate that. If you got benefit from this, please leave a review. If you know someone that could benefit from it, share it with them. Follow me, facebook.com/TheTrevorChapman. On Instagram, I am at JTrevorChapman. And lastly, if you want to work with me more closely, you can go to TrevorChapman.com or academyofarbitrage.com. My friends, listen, you can go from iron bar to watch spring. You can analyze your market and get ahead of the curve. You don't have to buy meat because it's the rainy season. You can buy meat because you know what the weather forecasts are. You can regress the historical data. You can measure how much soybeans grow based on the climate, the soil composition. And out of all of this mess of data, you can come up with something that no one else does. And that is an exact understanding of when the meat will hit the market. And then like Ray Dalio, you can bet against it or for it and make a fortune. It just takes a little extra effort, a little bit more passion, a little bit more love, a little bit more duty, and a little bit more excellence. Be excellent, my friends. All my love, all my respect. Until tomorrow, Trevor